My hands trembled as I balanced the tray of cocktails. 6 hours into my shift and my feet screamed inside the mandatory black heels. The weight of expensive glassware pulled at my shoulders, but I kept my practiced smile fixed in place. This was survival. 3 months in this city, 3 months hiding behind a new name, 3 months of keeping my head down and blending into the background. Sapphire Lounge glittered around me like a jewelry box. Crystal chandeliers cast golden light across marble floors. The air tasted of money, expensive cologne mixed with aged whiskey and cigarette smoke that somehow seemed sophisticated rather than suffocating. This wasn't just a bar, it was a playground for the wealthy, the powerful, the dangerous. Last 3 martinis go to table 12. Jenna whispered as she passed, her black uniform as wrinkled as mine, dark circles under her eyes matching my own. And heads up, VIP section is full tonight. Marco's on edge, the VIP section, of course. The darkest corner of Sapphire, sectioned off with velvet ropes and guarded by men whose bulging jackets couldn't quite hide their holstered weapons. I'd successfully avoided serving there for 3 months. My luck was apparently running out. Sophia. Marco's sharp voice cut through the ambient music. I turned to find him glaring at me, his bald head gleaming under the lights, stress carved into every line of his perpetually tense face. Table 12 is waiting, then you're covering VIP. Angela called in sick. My stomach dropped. But I've never. You'll learn. His hand clamped on my shoulder, fingers digging in with barely contained aggression. Listen carefully. The men in VIP, they're special clients. Don't ask questions. Don't make small talk. Just give them what they want and get out. Understand? I swallowed hard, nodding. Understood. Good. He released me with a slight shove. No move. I delivered the martinis to table 12 with mechanical efficiency, my mind already racing ahead to the VIP section. I'd heard stories. Whispers in the break room about dangerous men, about waitresses who asked too many questions and suddenly stopped showing up for shifts. About the kind of business that happened behind those velvet ropes, business that had nothing to do with overpriced cocktails. The VIP section loomed at the back of the lounge, elevated slightly above the main floor. Dark wood panels and strategic lighting made it nearly impossible to see clearly from the outside. As I approached with a fresh tray of premium liquor, the security guard, a mountain of muscle named Victor, gave me a curt nod and lifted the rope. First time, he asked, his accent thick and unidentifiable. Yes. Keep your eyes down. Don't stare, they value discretion. His pale eyes held mine for a moment. And whatever you see or hear, you forget by the time you leave. The warning sent ice through my veins, but I nodded and stepped past him into the shadows. The VIP section held 4 round tables, each occupied by men in suits that probably cost more than 6 months of my rent. The lighting was dimmer here, intimate in a way that felt calculated rather than romantic. Cigar smoke curled through the air, and conversations halted as I entered, multiple sets of eyes turning toward me with varying degrees of interest. But it was the center table that made my breath catch in my throat. 3 men sat there, but only one commanded attention. He occupied the middle seat like a king on a throne, though he was simply leaning back in his chair, one hand wrapped around a tumbler of amber liquid, the other resting casually on the armrest. Dark hair swept back from a face of sharp angles and hard edges. Olive skin, a strong jaw shadowed with precisely maintained stubble. And eyes, God, those eyes, so dark they appeared black in the low light. They locked onto mine the moment I stepped into view. I felt stripped bare under that gaze. Exposed, seen in a way I hadn't been in 3 months of carefully staying invisible. Gentlemen. I forced steadiness into my voice, approaching with the tray. Can I offer you another round? The man to the right, blond and scarred along his jawline, gestured to his empty glass. Macallan 25 neat. I nodded, setting down his drink with hands that somehow stayed steady despite my racing heart. The man on the left ordered vodka Russian, expensive. I poured with practiced precision, hyper-aware of the center man's continued silence, his continued staring. When I finally had no choice but to address him, I turned and met those impossibly dark eyes. Sir? Would you like? Surprised they sent someone new. His voice was low, smooth like aged whiskey with just enough gravel to send shivers down my spine. The accent was subtle but unmistakable. Italian, maybe Sicilian. The way he slightly rolled his R's made common words sound exotic. What's your name? Marco's warnings echoed in my head. Don't engage, don't make conversation. But refusing to answer felt impossible under that penetrating stare. Sophia? Sophia. He tasted my name like fine wine, letting it linger. And how long have you worked here, Sophia? 3 months, sir. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. Yet Marco has never sent you back here before. It wasn't a question, but I answered anyway. Angela usually handles the VIP section. And where is Angela tonight? Sick, sir. Convenient. He leaned forward slightly, the movement drawing my attention to the expensive cut of his suit, the heavy gold watch on his wrist, the signet ring on his right hand. Power radiated from him like heat from a fire. Tell me, Sophia, do you know who I am? Every instinct screamed to say no, to claim ignorance and escape, but something in his eyes told me he'd know if I lied. No, sir. I'm sorry. The smile widened just a fraction. Good, let's keep it that way. He gestured to his empty glass. Scotch, the 30-year. Neat. I poured with trembling hands, hyper-aware of his gaze tracking my every movement. When I set the glass before him, his fingers brushed mine as he took it. The contact lasted only a second, but it burned like a brand. "Thank you, Sophia." The way he said my name felt possessive. "You can go." I retreated as quickly as dignity allowed, my heart hammering against my ribs. Behind the velvet rope, I exhaled shakily, earning a knowing look from Victor. "You did well," he said quietly. "Mr. Russo likes discretion." Russo. The name clicked into place like a key in a lock, bringing with it a flood of recognition I'd been desperately avoiding. Dante Russo. I'd heard the name whispered in the break room, read it in newspapers I'd glimpsed on subway rides. One of the most powerful men in the city, businessman by day, something far more dangerous by reputation. And I just served him drinks while he stared at me like I was something he wanted to devour. The rest of my shift passed in a blur. I moved through my tables mechanically, smile plastered in place, but my mind kept drifting back to those dark eyes, that smooth voice, the way he'd touched my hand like he was claiming something. It was nearly 2 a.m. when Marco finally let me go. The lounge was closing, the last stragglers being politely ushered out by security. I grabbed my coat from the staff room, desperate to escape into the relative safety of the night. The alley behind Sapphire was poorly lit and smelled of garbage and rain. I pulled my coat tighter, fishing in my purse for my phone. 3 blocks to the subway, 15 minutes home to my tiny studio apartment, then I could finally breathe. "Sophia." The voice froze me mid-step. I spun around, my back hitting the brick wall as Dante Russo emerged from the shadows near the lounge's back entrance. He'd removed his suit jacket, his white shirt unbuttoned at the collar, sleeves rolled to reveal forearms corded with muscle. In the dim light, he looked less like a businessman and more like the predator everyone whispered he was. "Mr. Russo." My voice came out breathier than I intended. The lounge is closed. If you need." "I'm not here for the lounge." He moved closer, each step deliberate, calculated. "I'm here for you." Fear and something dangerously close to anticipation warred in my chest. "I don't understand." "Don't you?" He stopped just inches away, close enough that I could smell his cologne, cedar, and something darker, more expensive. "You felt it too. Back there. When I looked at you." "I don't know what you're talking about." The lie tasted bitter on my tongue. His hand came up slowly, giving me time to retreat if I wanted. When I didn't, his fingers traced along my jawline with aching gentleness. "Don't lie to me, Sophia. I can see it in your eyes. The fear, yes, but also the curiosity, the attraction. I should have pulled away. Should have run." Instead, I stood frozen as his thumb brushed across my lower lip, the touch sending electricity racing through my nervous system. "Who are you running from?" he asked softly. The question shattered the spell. I jerked back, my shoulder blades digging into brick. "I'm not. Everyone who works at Sapphire is running from something." His eyes held mine, seeing too much. "Marco has a gift for finding people who need to disappear. So tell me, Sophia, who are you hiding from?" "That's none of your business." I tried to sound firm, but my voice shook. "Perhaps not." He stepped back slightly, giving me space to breathe. "But I'm making it my business. 3 months you've worked here, and I never saw you. Then tonight you walk into my section, and I can't take my eyes off you." His jaw tightened. "That doesn't happen to me. Ever. I should go." I moved to sidestep him, but his arm shot out, palm flat against the wall beside my head, caging me in without touching me. "Not yet." His face was inches from mine now, his breath warm against my skin. "I want to know your real name." "It is my real name." "Your last name then?" "Why does it matter?" "Because I want to know who I'm thinking about." The honesty in his admission stunned me. "And I will be thinking about you, Sophia. Every moment until I see you again." "You won't see me again." I ducked under his arm, finally breaking free. "I quit. As of right now, I don't work at Sapphire anymore." I made it 3 steps before his words stopped me cold. "That won't stop me from finding you." I looked back over my shoulder to find him watching me with an intensity that should have terrified me. Instead, it ignited something dark and wanting in my core. "Stay away from me, Mr. Russo. Call me Dante." He slid his hands into his pockets, the picture of casual danger. "And I can't promise that beautiful. Not when you look at me like you're drowning and I'm oxygen." I ran then, fled into the night like the coward I'd become. But his words chased me all the way home, burrowing into my mind like a virus I couldn't shake. That night, I lay awake in my studio apartment, staring at the water, stained ceiling and trying to convince myself that quitting Sapphire was the smart choice, that staying away from Dante Russo was survival instinct, not cowardice. But sleep wouldn't come, and when I finally dozed off as dawn broke over the city, I dreamed of dark eyes and dangerous promises whispered against my skin. The coffee shop was crowded, filled with the morning rush of professionals grabbing their caffeine fix before heading to jobs that actually mattered. I sat in the corner booth, nursing my 3rd cup of black coffee and scrolling through job listings on my cracked phone screen. 2 days since I'd walked away from Sapphire. 2 days of avoiding phone calls from Marco, who'd left increasingly threatening voicemails about abandoning my shift without proper notice. 2 days of trying not to think about Dante Russo. I was failing spectacularly at that last part. "You look like hell." Jenna slid into the seat across from me, her own coffee in hand. She'd texted me this morning, demanding we meet. "Marco's pissed, by the way, screaming about professionalism and respect." "Let him scream. I took another sip of bitter coffee. I'm not going back. Because of what happened in VIP. Her eyes narrowed knowingly. I heard Donna Russo asked for you specifically the next night. Marco had to tell him you quit. My stomach clenched. He asked for me, apparently. Jenna leaned back, studying me with an expression I couldn't quite rid. Sophia, what the hell happened back there? Nobody just walks away from Sapphire, especially not because of a customer. Those tips alone. It wasn't about the tips. I set down my cup, my hands shaking slightly. It was about staying alive. Jesus. Jenna's voice dropped to a whisper. He threatened you, no. The admission came reluctantly. The opposite, actually, he was interested. Too interested. Understanding dawned in her eyes. And you're scared, wouldn't you be? I gestured helplessly. Men like Donna Russo, they don't just show interest in women like me. They consume us, destroy us, and move on. Or protect us. Jenna's words hung heavy between us. Look, I know his reputation. Everyone does. But I've also seen him with people he cares about. His loyalty is legendary, Sophia. If he's interested in you, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I can't afford to find out which it is. I gathered my phone and bag, preparing to leave. I need to stay invisible. Getting involved with someone like him is the exact opposite of that. Jenna caught my wrist as I stood. Where are you going to work? Sapphire paid better than anywhere else in this neighborhood, and you need money. Your studio doesn't pay for itself. She was right, damn her. The job listings I'd been scrolling through offered half what I'd been making at Sapphire, and even that had barely covered my expenses. 3 months of savings wouldn't last long if I couldn't find something comparable. I'll figure it out, I said, pulling free of her grip. Sophia. Her voice stopped me. Whatever you're running from, hiding isn't a permanent solution. Eventually, you have to stop running and face it. I left without responding because she was right about that too, and I wasn't ready to admit it. The next few days blurred together in a monotonous routine of job applications and rejections. Turns out quitting without notice left a mark on your reputation, especially when Marco had apparently put the word out that I was unreliable. By day 5, I was down to my last $100 and seriously considering whether pride was worth starving for. That's when I found myself standing outside a place called Velvet, a upscale restaurant in a neighborhood I couldn't normally afford to breathe in. They were hiring servers, no questions asked, cash paid nightly. It screamed sketchy, but beggars couldn't be choosers. The interior was all dark wood and soft lighting, similar to Sapphire but somehow warmer, less predatory. A woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and sharper cheekbones looked up from the host stand as I entered. We're not open yet, she said, her accent placing her from somewhere in Eastern Europe. I'm here about the server position. I held up the crumpled printout of their online ad. The listing said to apply in person. Her eyes swept over me. Assessing. You have experience. 3 years, most recently at Sapphire Lounge. Something flickered in her expression. Sapphire? Why did you leave? Personal reasons. I met her gaze steadily, willing her not to push. She studied me for a long moment, then nodded toward the back. Wait in the office. I'll get the manager. The office was small but immaculate, decorated with the same expensive taste as the main dining room. I sat in one of the leather chairs facing the desk, trying to calm my racing heart. I needed this job. Needed it desperately enough to swallow my pride and whatever instincts were screaming at me to run. The door opened behind me, and I turned with my practiced smile already in place. Hello, I'm Sophia Chen and I. The words died in my throat. Dante Russo stood in the doorway, his dark suit perfectly tailored, his expression unreadable as those impossibly dark eyes locked onto mine. For a moment, neither of us moved, neither of us breathed. Hello, Sophia. His voice was silken steel, sending shivers down my spine despite my shock. I've been looking for you. I shot to my feet, my chair scraping against the hardwood. This is a setup. This is an opportunity. He closed the door behind him with a soft click that sounded like a prison gate locking. Sit down. Please. I'm leaving. I moved toward the door, but he didn't budge from his position blocking it. Velvet is one of my establishments. He slid his hands into his pockets, the picture of casual control. Has been for 3 years. When I heard you were applying, I thought we should have a conversation. There's nothing to talk about. I crossed my arms defensively. I need a job, not whatever this is. This is me offering you exactly that. He moved to the desk, leaning against it with an ease that somehow made him more intimidating. Velvet needs experienced servers. You need employment. It's a simple transaction. Nothing about you is simple, Mr. Russo. Dante, he corrected softly. And you're right, I'm not simple, but I am fair. He gestured to the chair I'd abandoned. Set, please. 5 minutes of your time, then you can decide. Against every instinct screaming at me to flee, I sat. Maybe because I truly was desperate enough to consider this insanity. Maybe because some dark part of me wanted to be near him again, wanted to feel that dangerous pull I'd been trying to deny. Why did you quit Sapphire? He settled into the chair behind the desk, his gaze never leaving my face. I told you. Personal reasons. Was it because of me? The directness of the question caught me off guard. Partially. Because I frightened you. His jaw tightened. Or because I made you feel something you didn't want to feel. Both. The honesty escaped before I could stop it. Men like you. They're dangerous. Getting involved with you would be suicide for someone like me. Someone like you. He leaned forward, elbows on the desk. And what kind of person are you, Sophia? The kind who runs, the kind who hides, the kind who survives. The words came out sharper than intended, by any means necessary. Something shifted in his expression, understanding dawning. Who are you running from? That's none of your concern. It became my concern the moment you walked into my section at Sapphire. His voice dropped lower, more intimate. The moment I looked at you and felt something I haven't felt in years. Interest, curiosity, desire. My breath caught. Mr. Russo, Dante. He stood, moving around the desk with predatory grace. Say it. My name. This is inappropriate. I stood as well, needing the illusion of equal footing even though we both knew he held all the power here. Most things worth having are. He stopped just inches away, close enough that I could smell his cologne, feel the heat radiating from his body. Work here, Sophia. Let me keep you safe. I don't need your protection. Everyone needs protection from something. His hand came up slowly, giving me time to retreat. When I didn't, his fingers brushed a strand of hair from my face with aching gentleness. Let me be yours. In exchange for what? I forced myself to meet his eyes, to see the truth of his intentions. Nothing is free, especially not from men like you. Smart girl. A smile ghosted across his lips. In exchange for honesty. I want to know your real story, who you're running from, why you're hiding. I want you to trust me. And if I refuse, then you walk out that door, and I'll make sure every restaurant, bar, and club in this city knows you're available for hire. He stepped back, giving me space. No pressure, no expectations. Just my word that you'll be left alone to build whatever life you choose. The offer was too generous, which meant it was a trap. But looking into his eyes, I saw only sincerity, and somehow that was more terrifying than any threat. Why? The question emerged as barely a whisper. Why do you care? Because when I look at you, I see someone worth protecting. His honesty was brutal, unflinching, and I haven't felt that way about anyone in a very long time. So yes, this is selfish. Yes, I want something from you. But what I want isn't your body or your submission. It's your trust. The silence stretched between us, heavy with possibility and danger. Outside the office, I could hear the restaurant coming to life, staff arriving for the dinner shift, the clatter of plates and murmur of voices. Normal sounds for a normal place, but there was nothing normal about this moment, about this choice. If I work here, I said slowly, I have conditions. Interest sparked in his dark eyes. Name them. No special treatment. I'm just another server, nothing more. Agreed. You stay away from me during my shifts. No visits, no conversations, no whatever this is. I gestured between us. His jaw tightened, but he nodded. Agreed. And if I want to quit, you let me go? No questions, no manipulation. On one condition of my own. He moved closer again, and I fought the urge to retreat. You give me 1 month. 30 days of working here, of letting me prove you can trust me. After that, if you still want to disappear, I'll help you do it properly. New identity, new city, whatever you need. It was too good to be true, which meant it was definitely a trap. But I was out of options, out of money, and out of places to hide. 1 month, I agreed, extending my hand. His palm engulfed mine, warm and firm, the contact sending electricity up my arm. 1 month, he repeated, his thumb brushing across my knuckles in a caress disguised as a handshake. And Sophia, I always keep my promises. As I left the office with my new employment paperwork, I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd just made a deal with the devil himself. And the most terrifying part, some dark corner of my soul was looking forward to it. My first shift at Velvet should have been routine. I'd been serving tables for 3 years, had the fake smile and automatic pleasantries down to an art form. But nothing about working in an establishment owned by Dante Russo could ever be routine. The restaurant itself was beautiful in a way Sapphire never had been. Where Sapphire felt predatory, all sharp edges and shadows, Velvet was warm and inviting. Exposed brick walls softened by strategic lighting, plush velvet booths in deep burgundy, and an open kitchen where flames danced behind glass. It felt less like a hunting ground and more like a sanctuary. You'll be working Section 3 tonight, said Alina, the sharp-eyed woman who'd first greeted me. She was the floor manager I'd learned, and had been with Dante for over a decade. 6 tables, manageable for your first night. Tips are good here, clientele is wealthy but polite. We don't tolerate harassment of any kind. Good to know. I tied my black apron around my waist, smoothing down the simple black dress that served as the uniform. It was more modest than Sapphire's requirements, the neckline higher, the skirt longer. Another small mercy. One more thing. Elena's voice dropped lower, her accent thickening slightly. Mr. Russo owns this place, but he rarely comes by, and when he does, he expects professionalism from all staff. No special treatment, no gossip. Understand. I wondered if she knew about my history with him, brief as it was. Probably. Dante didn't strike me as a man who kept secrets from his most trusted people. Understood, I replied. The dinner rush started at 6 and didn't slow until after 10. I fell into the familiar rhythm easily, the muscle memory of years of service work taking over. Take orders, deliver drinks, clear plates, smile, repeat. My tables were generous, the tips reflecting the upscale clientele Elena had promised. By the time my shift ended at midnight, my feet ached and my face hurt from smiling, but my pocket was heavier with cash than it had been in weeks. I was counting my tips in the staff room when Elena appeared in the doorway. "Good first night," she said, her expression approving. "You'll fit in well here. Thank you." I tucked the bills into my purse. "Same time tomorrow. Actually, Mr. Russo would like to see you before you leave." She held up a hand as I opened my mouth to protest. "In his office. Briefly. He wants to ensure your first night went smoothly." My stomach nodded. We'd agreed on no contact during my shifts, but technically my shift was over. Still, this felt like a violation of the spirit of our arrangement. "Fine," I said, grabbing my coat. "Where's his office?" "Third floor. Take the private elevator at the back." Elena's eyes held a warning I couldn't quite decipher. "And Sophia, whatever exists between you and Mr. Russo, don't let it compromise your work here. This place means something to him." I wanted to tell her nothing existed between us, that we were strangers bound by a temporary employment arrangement. But the words stuck in my throat, rendered false by the way my heart raced at the thought of seeing him again. The private elevator was tucked behind the kitchen, accessible only with a key card Elena had provided. It rose smoothly, opening directly into a hallway lined with expensive art and soft lighting. 2 doors branched off, one labeled, "Private Residence," the other unmarked. I knocked on the unmarked door. "Come in." His voice sent familiar shivers down my spine. I pushed open the door to find an office that matched the man, elegant but understated, powerful without being ostentatious. Floor to ceiling windows revealed the city glittering below like scattered diamonds, and behind a massive desk of dark wood sat down to Russo, his jacket discarded, shirt sleeves rolled up, looking every inch the dangerous king of his domain. "You wanted to see me." I stayed near the door, maintaining distance. "How was your first night?" He gestured to the leather chair across from his desk. "Please sit." "It was fine." I remained standing. "Elena said you wanted to ensure everything went smoothly." That was an excuse. He stood, moving around the desk with that predatory grace I'd come to recognize. "I wanted to see you." We agreed I wouldn't bother you during your shift." He stopped a few feet away, close enough to affect me but far enough to give me space. "Your shift is over." Semantics. I crossed my arms defensively. The spirit of our agreement was clear. "You're right." He slid his hands into his pockets, a gesture I was beginning to recognize as his way of restraining himself. "I apologize. But I needed to know you were settling in, that no one gave you trouble." "Why would anyone give me trouble?" His jaw tightened. "Because you're beautiful, and beautiful women in service positions often face harassment. I wanted to ensure that wasn't the case." The compliment caught me off guard, heat rising in my cheeks. "I can handle myself." "I'm sure you can." His eyes roamed my face, cataloging every detail. "But you shouldn't have to." "Not here. This is meant to be a safe place." "Safe?" I couldn't help the bitter laugh that escaped. "Nothing about this situation feels safe, Mr. Russo. Dante." His voice dropped lower, more intimate. "And perhaps safe isn't the right word. Protected here?" "Protected from what?" The question emerged sharper than intended. "You don't even know what I'm running from." "Then tell me." He moved closer, and I found myself backing up until my shoulders hit the door. "Let me help you, Sophia." "Why?" I searched his face for deception, for the ulterior motive I knew had to be there. "Why do you care about some random waitress you met once?" "Because I can't stop thinking about you." The admission was raw, unguarded. "Because I look at you and see someone worth protecting, worth knowing. Because when you walked out of Sapphire, you took something with you that I didn't know I could still feel." "What?" The word barely made it past my lips. "Hope?" His hand came up, hovering near my face without touching. "That perhaps I'm not as dead inside as I thought." The vulnerability in his voice cracked something inside me. This wasn't the feared crime boss, the ruthless businessman. This was just a man, lonely and honest and dangerous in entirely new ways. "I can't be your salvation," I whispered. "I can barely save myself. I'm not asking you to save me." His fingers finally made contact, brushing along my jawline with aching gentleness. "I'm asking you to let me protect you. To trust that my interest in you isn't just desire, though God knows I want you. It's something deeper, something I can't quite name." My breath caught as his thumb traced my lower lip, the touch igniting nerve endings I'd thought long dead. 3 months of keeping everyone at arm's length, of never letting anyone close enough to hurt me, crumbled under the weight of his honesty. "I'm scared," I admitted. "Of you. Of this. Of what wanting you might cost me." "I know." He leaned closer, his forehead nearly touching mine. "I'm scared too. Because I have a feeling that once I have you, I won't be able to let you go. And that kind of vulnerability, for a man like me, is dangerous. Then we should stop this now." Even as I said it, my body swayed toward him. "Before it goes too far." "It went too far the moment you walked into my section at Sapphire." His voice was rough, strained. "The moment I looked at you and felt something shift inside me. We're already in too deep, beautiful. The only question is whether we drown together or learn to swim." The space between us crackled with tension, thick enough to choke on. His hand cradled my face, thumb continuing its maddening caress along my cheekbone. Every instinct screamed at me to run, to protect myself from the inevitable heartbreak this man would bring. But a stronger instinct, one I'd been suppressing for 3 lonely months, urged me to lean in. To take what he was offering, consequences be damned. "Sophia." My name on his lips sounded like a prayer and a curse. Tell me to stop. Tell me you don't want this, and I'll walk away. I'll honor our agreement, keep my distance. But if you don't say it now, baby, don't. The word slipped out before I could stop it, a desperate plea that emerged from some deep, hidden part of me that was tired of running, tired of being alone. The effect was instantaneous. Downty went perfectly still, his dark eyes widening fractionally before something molten and dangerous filled them. His hand tightened slightly on my face, not painful but possessive. What did you just call me? His voice was barely above a whisper, rough with something that sounded like hunger. Horror washed over me as I realized what I'd said. I didn't. It was an accident. I didn't mean, say it again. He moved closer, our bodies nearly touching. But slower this time. I shouldn't have? Sophia? His other hand came up to frame my face, holding me gently but firmly. Say it again. My heart hammered against my ribs. The endearment had slipped out naturally, the way it might to a long-time lover, someone I trusted and cared for. But we were strangers, bound by nothing but a temporary employment arrangement and an attraction that terrified me. Please don't make me, I whispered. Why? His thumb traced my lower lip again. Why does it scare you so much? Because saying it makes it real. Tears pricked my eyes, though I refused to let them fall. Makes this real. And I can't afford real, Mr. Russo. Real gets you hurt, real gets you killed. Understanding dawned in his expression, followed by a rage so fierce it should have terrified me. Instead, I felt oddly safe, knowing that fury wasn't directed at me. Who hurt you? The question was soft, belied by the violence simmering beneath. Tell me their name. It doesn't matter anymore. I tried to pull away, but his hands held firm. It matters to me. His forehead pressed against mine, his breath warm on my lips. Everything about you matters to me, and I can't explain why. But it does. We stood there, frozen in that intimate tableau, the air between us charged with possibility and danger. His eyes searched mine, looking for permission, for trust, for something I wasn't sure I could give. 1 month. I finally said, my voice barely audible. You promised me 1 month to decide. I did. His hand slid down to my shoulders, a grounding weight. And I'll honor that promise. But Sophia, beautiful, know this. I'm a patient man when it comes to things I want, and I want you. More than I've wanted anything in years. Want isn't the same as need. I countered, trying to regain some equilibrium. You'll lose interest. Men like you always do. Men like me. A humorless smile curved his lips. You don't know men like me, Sophia. You'd have known boys pretending to be men. Users and abusers who took what they wanted and discarded what they didn't. But I'm not them. When I claim something as mine, I keep it. I protect it. I would burn the world down before I let harm come to it. The intensity of his declaration should have frightened me. Instead, it awakened something primal and wanting in my core. I should go, I said, though I made no move to leave. It's late. Let me drive you home. He finally stepped back, giving me room to breathe. It's not safe for you to take the subway at this hour. I've been taking the subway for 3 months. That was before you were mine to protect. I'm not yours. The smile he gave me was pure predator. Not yet. But you will be beautiful. That's not arrogance, it's inevitability. We both feel it. He wasn't wrong, and that terrified me more than anything else. True to his word, Dante had his driver take me home. The sleek black Mercedes felt absurdly out of place in my neighborhood, all crumbling brownstones and flickering streetlights. I half expected him to insist on walking me to my door, but he simply watched from the back seat as I climbed out, those dark eyes tracking my every movement until I disappeared into my building. Sleep didn't come easily that night. I lay in my narrow bed, staring at cracks in the ceiling and replaying our conversation on an endless loop. The way he'd looked at me when I'd accidentally called him baby. The hunger and possession in his eyes. The promise that I would be his, delivered with the certainty of a man who always got what he wanted. I should have been terrified, should have been planning my escape, gathering what little I owned and disappearing into the night. But instead, I found myself imagining what it would be like to let him catch me, to stop running and let someone else carry the weight for a while. Dangerous thoughts, fatal thoughts. I'd learned the hard way that depending on anyone, especially powerful men with dark eyes and darker promises, only led to pain. The next 2 weeks fell into a strange rhythm. I worked my shifts at Velvet, served tables, collected generous tips, and pretended not to feel Dante's presence even when he wasn't there, because he kept his word about staying away during my shifts. I didn't see him once in those 14 days. But I felt him everywhere, in the way Alina watched me with knowing eyes, in the extra security that seemed to materialize whenever I left the restaurant late, in the flowers that appeared in the staff room with no card, just deep red roses that somehow smelled like cedar and danger. Someone's got an admirer, Jenna said one night, having followed me from Sapphire to Velvet when she heard I'd found work. She was eyeing the latest bouquet with poorly concealed amusement. Let me guess, tall, dark, dangerously handsome, owns the place. I don't know what you're talking about. I kept my eyes on the table I was setting for the dinner rush. Sophia. She grabbed my arm, turning me to face her. Everyone knows. The staff, the regulars, probably half the city by now. Dante Russo is courting you. He's not, we're not. It's not like that. The protest sounded weak even to my own ears. Then what is it like? Jenna's expression softened. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like a very powerful man is going to extreme lengths to show a certain waitress he's serious. He barely knows me, so let him get to know you. She released my arm. Unless you're still planning to run. Was I? That had been the plan initially. Work for a month, save every penny, then disappear before things could get complicated. But 2 weeks in and I'd barely saved anything. Turns out living in New York was expensive even on good tips, and there was always something, rent, utilities, groceries, the phone bill I'd been avoiding. I don't know what I'm planning anymore, I admitted quietly. Jenna smiled. Good. Planning is overrated anyway. That night, after my shift ended and the restaurant had closed, I found Elena waiting by the staff room door. Mr. Russo would like to see you, she said, and there was something different in her expression. Not the usual professional courtesy, but something warmer. Almost a prude night. I protested weakly. He's aware. She handed me a key card, 3rd floor. You know the way. I should have refused. Should have gone straight home to my lonely studio and my sleepless bed. But my feet carried me to the private elevator. My hand swiped the card, and before I could guess myself, I was rising toward his office. The door was already open when I arrived, light spilling into the hallway. I knocked anyway, some ingrained politeness asserting itself. Come in, Sophia. He stood by the windows, silhouetted against the glittering cityscape. He'd discarded his jacket again, his shirt unbuttoned at the collar, sleeves rolled up. But it was his face that stopped me in my tracks. He looked exhausted, the kind of bone, deep weariness that spoke of burdens too heavy to carry alone. You wanted to see me. I stepped inside, letting the door close behind me. I wanted to see you every day for the past 2 weeks. He turned to face me fully, and I saw the dark circles under his eyes, the tension in his jaw. But I gave you my word I'd stay away. You sent flowers. I'm Italian. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. We express ourselves through grand gestures and botanical offerings, sue me. Despite everything, I felt my own lips curve slightly. They were beautiful. You're beautiful. He moved toward me, each step deliberate. And I've been going insane not seeing you, not talking to you. Tell me I'm not alone in this. Tell me you've been thinking about me too. I should have lied. Should have built walls and maintained distance. But I was so tired of lying, of hiding, of pretending I didn't feel the pull between us like gravity itself. I've thought about you, I admitted, more than I should. More than is smart or safe or sane. He stopped just inches away, close enough that I could smell his cologne, see the flecks of lighter brown in his dark eyes. Smart and safe are overrated. And sanity. His hand came up to cup my cheek. I lost that the moment you walked into my life, who barely know each other. Even as I protested, I leaned into his touch. Then let me know you. His thumb traced along my cheekbone. Tell me something real, something true. Start with why you're running. The question I'd been avoiding for 2 weeks hung between us. I could deflect again, change the subject, maintain the walls that had kept me safe for 3 months. Or I could take a leap of faith into the dark, trusting this dangerous man to catch me. His name was Marcus. I heard myself say, the words emerging like they'd been trapped in my chest, waiting for release. We dated for 2 years. He was charming at first, attentive, the kind of guy every girl thinks she's lucky to find. Dante's jaw tightened, but he remained silent, letting me continue. It started small. Comments about my clothes, my friends, where I went and when. Then it was my phone, checking who I texted. Then it was following me, showing up at my work unannounced. I swallowed hard against the memories. By the time I realized what was happening, I was so isolated I had no one to turn to. His hand on my face trembled slightly, but his voice remained steady. Did he hurt you? Not physically. The lie tasted bitter. Mostly it was psychological, making me doubt myself, convincing me I was crazy for being upset, that his jealousy was just love. Sophia. His other hand came up to frame my face, forcing me to meet his eyes. Did he hurt you? The command in his voice broke something in me. Tears I'd been holding back for months finally spilled over, running down my cheeks and onto his hands. Once, I whispered. Near the end. I told him I was leaving, and I couldn't finish, couldn't give voice to that final violation. I woke up in the hospital. He'd told them I fell down the stairs. The rage that filled Dante's expression was terrifying in its intensity. His hands tightened on my face, not painfully but possessively, and when he spoke, his voice was deadly quiet. Where is he now? I don't know. I gripped his wrists, anchoring myself. After I got out of the hospital, I ran. Changed my name, my hair, everything. I've been moving every few months, staying off social media, working cash jobs. A bitter laugh escaped. I thought I was being paranoid. Thought maybe I was overreacting. You weren't. He pulled me against his chest, one hand cradling the back of my head while the other wrapped around my waist. You were surviving. And you did it alone because no one was there to protect you. I let myself melt into his embrace, the first real human contact I'd allowed myself in months. He was solid and warm, and I could feel his heartbeat beneath my cheek, steady and strong. I'm here now, he murmured against my hair. And I swear to you, Sophia, he will never hurt you again. If he's still breathing, he won't be for long. I should have been horrified by the casual promise of murder. Instead, I felt something dark and satisfied unfurl in my chest. You can't kill everyone who's ever hurt me, I said, but the protest was weak. Watch me. He pulled back just enough to tilt my face up to his. Give me his full name, everything you know about him. My people will find him. And then what? I searched his face. You'll make him disappear. Add another body to whatever count you've already accumulated. Yes. No hesitation, no shame. Because the thought of him out there, breathing the same air as you, thinking he might someday find you again, it's unacceptable. You don't even know me. But my hands were gripping his shirt, holding him close rather than pushing away. Not really. We've had 3 real conversations. I know enough. His forehead pressed against mine. I know you're brave enough to run from danger even when it means leaving everything behind. I know you're strong enough to rebuild your life from nothing. I know you call me baby when you're scared, like some part of you already trusts me to keep you safe. Heat flooded my cheeks at the reminder. That was an accident. Say it again. His voice dropped to that dangerous register that made my knees weak. Please, beautiful. Say it like you mean it. Why? I couldn't look away from his eyes. Why does it matter so much? Because no one has ever called me anything soft. His thumb brushed away my tears. My entire life I've been Sir, Boss, Mr. Russo. Terms of respect, of fear. But you, in a moment of vulnerability, you called me baby, like I was someone worth caring about. Someone safe. The loneliness in his admission cracked my heart. This powerful, dangerous man, feared by half the city, was as starved for tenderness as I was for safety. Baby. The word emerged as barely a whisper, but his eyes closed like I'd given him something precious. Please don't make me regret this. Never. He opened his eyes, and the intensity in them stole my breath. I will never give you reason to regret choosing me. This is my promise, Sophia. You are under my protection now. Not as an employee or an obligation, but because I'm claiming you. As mine. To protect, to cherish, to keep safe from every monster in the dark, including yourself. I had to ask. Especially myself. His lips curved in a sad smile. I know what I am, beautiful. I know the darkness I carry. But with you I want to be better. Want to be the man you see when you look at me with those scared, hopeful eyes. I see a man who keeps his promises, I said softly. A man who sends roses without cards and respects boundaries even when it costs him. I see someone lonely and dangerous and maybe worth taking a chance on, maybe. His smile widened slightly. I'm still deciding. But I was smiling too, the first real smile I'd managed in months. Take all the time you need. He pressed a kiss to my forehead, tender and chaste. I'm not going anywhere, and neither are you not anymore. This running, this hiding, it's over. You're home now, Sophia. Right here with me. Home. The word settled into my chest like a key finding its lock. I'd been searching for home in cities and apartments, in jobs and false identities. But maybe home wasn't a place at all. Maybe it was standing in the arms of a dangerous man who looked at me like I was worth protecting from the world. Even if that world included himself. Part Faust 2,000 words. The next morning, I woke up in Dante's penthouse. Not in his bed. He'd been surprisingly gentlemanly about that. After I'd broken down in his office, after his promises and my tentative trust, he'd driven me to a building I'd only ever seen from the outside. Luxury high-rise, the kind with doormen in actual uniforms and lobbies that looked like art galleries. I have a guest room, he'd said, sensing my hesitation in the elevator. No pressure, no expectations, but I'm not letting you go back to that studio alone tonight. Not when you're vulnerable. I should have argued. Should have insisted on my independence, my autonomy. But I was exhausted, emotionally wrung out, and the thought of my empty studio suddenly felt unbearable. The guest room was larger than my entire apartment. King-sized bed with Egyptian cotton sheets, ensuite bathroom with a tub that could fit 3 people, a walk-in closet that echoed with emptiness. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed the city sprawled below, lights glittering like scattered stars. There are clothes in the closet. Dante had said from the doorway, not entering without invitation. My sister visits sometimes. You're about the same size. Help yourself to anything you need. You have a sister. The detail surprised me. I'd been building an image of him as a solitary figure, alone in his dangerous world. 2 sisters and a brother. A genuine smile crossed his face, transforming him from dangerous to almost boyish. All younger, all convinced I worked too hard, all relentlessly trying to set me up with their friends. Why haven't they succeeded? I asked before I could stop myself. His smile faded into something more complex. Because I was waiting. His dark eyes held mine, though I didn't know what for until 2 weeks ago. He'd left me then, closing the door softly behind him. I'd stood frozen for long moments before finally moving, exploring the space that felt more like a luxury hotel than a bedroom. The closet did indeed contain women's clothes, all designer labels and expensive fabrics. I chose the simplest option, soft cotton pajamas that somehow still felt decadent against my skin. Sleep had come surprisingly easily, my body surrendering to exhaustion the moment I slipped between those impossibly soft sheets. Now, morning light streamed through the windows, and I could smell coffee. Rich, dark, perfectly brewed. My stomach growled, reminding me I'd barely eaten the day before. I found Dante in the kitchen, because of course a man like him had a kitchen that belonged in architectural magazines. All stainless steel and marble countertops, professional, great appliances that probably cost more than a car. He stood at the espresso machine, dressed in dark slacks and a white shirt unbuttoned at the collar, his hair slightly damp from a shower. He looked up as I entered, and something heated flickered in his eyes as he took in my borrowed pajamas. Good morning, beautiful. Sleep well. Better than I have in months. The admission came easily. Thank you. For last night. For this. I gestured vaguely at the opulent space around us. You don't need to thank me for basic human decency. He poured coffee into a porcelain cup, added a splash of cream without asking, and slid it across the counter to me, though I hope you'll let me do more. I took the cup, noting that he'd somehow known exactly how I took my coffee. You're paying attention. To everything about you. He leaned against the counter, his own cup cradled in his hands. Freem, no sugar. You take your coffee the same way at Velvet every shift. You also prefer savory to sweet at breakfast. You're right-handed but naturally ambidextrous, and you have a habit of tucking your hair behind your left ear when you're nervous. My hand, which had been reaching for my hair, froze mid-motion. That's borderline stalking. That's caring. His expression remained unapologetic. I notice everything about you, Sophia, because you matter to me. Get used to it. I should have been unnerved. Instead, I felt oddly cherished. What else have you noticed? You're scared right now. He set down his cup and moved around the counter toward me. Not of me, but of what accepting my protection means. You're used to being alone, to handling everything yourself. The idea of depending on someone terrifies you almost as much as the thought of Marcus finding you again. He'd read me completely, seen through every defense I'd tried to maintain. Stop it. Stop what? He stopped just inches away, close enough to touch but respecting my space. Stop seeing me so clearly. I set down my coffee before I dropped it. It's not fair. You know everything about me, and I know nothing about you except rumors and reputation. Then ask. He spread his hands. Whatever you want to know, I'll tell you. No lies, no evasion. Just truth. I studied him, this dangerous man offering transparency like a gift. How many people have you killed? He didn't even flinch. Personally, 17. Ordered. Too many to count, though I could give you an exact number if you really want it. The casual admission should have sent me running. Instead, I asked, do you regret any of them? 3. His jaw tightened. Men who turned out to be innocent of what I'd accused them of. I learned to be more certain before I act. The others. He shook his head. They were threats to my family, my people, my territory. I'd make the same choices again. What about Marcus? I had to know. If you find him, what will you do? Do you want the truth? When I nodded, he continued, I'll make him hurt the way he hurt you. Then I'll ensure he never has the opportunity to hurt anyone else again. And I won't lose sleep over it. Because you're a monster. Not an accusation, just a statement. Because I protect what's mine. He moved closer, his hand coming up to cup my face. And you're mine now, Sophia. Whether you're ready to accept that or not. Which means anyone who's ever hurt you, ever made you feel unsafe, ever put fear in those beautiful eyes, they become my problem to solve. What if I don't want you to solve it? I leaned into his touch despite my words. What if I need to do this myself? Then I'll stand beside you while you do. His thumb traced my cheekbone. But you're not facing anything alone anymore. That's non-negotiable. We stood there, the morning sun warming the kitchen, the city waking up below us. This should have been a beginning, a fresh start with a man who saw me, who wanted to protect me. But some paranoid instinct I'd developed over months of running whispered that it was too good to be true. What do you want from me? I asked quietly. Really want. No hesitation. Your trust, your time, your truth. Eventually, if I'm lucky, your heart. His forehead pressed against mine. I want you in my life, Sophia. In my home, in my bed, in my future. I want to wake up to you every morning and fall asleep with you every night. I want to give you safety and security in everything you've been denied. In exchange for what? Nothing. His honesty was brutal. This isn't transactional. I'm not buying you or trapping you. I'm offering you a choice. Stay with me, build something with me, let me protect you while you heal. Or walk away, and I'll still make sure Marcus never bothers you again. Either way, you're safe. The only variable is whether I get to be part of your life. Tears pricked my eyes at the unexpected gift of choice. For 2 years with Marcus, I'd had no agency, no voice. Every decision had been made for me, framed as love but executed as control. And here was Dante offering me absolute freedom even as he admitted he wanted to keep me. I don't know how to do this, I whispered. Don't know how to trust someone, let them in. He broke something in me, Dante. I'm not sure it can be fixed. You're not broken. His hands framed my face, tilting it up so I had to meet his eyes. You're wounded, yes. Scared, absolutely. But not broken. And you don't need to be fixed. Beautiful. You just need time and space to heal. What if I never heal? The fear I'd been carrying for months finally voiced. What if I'm always this scared, this damaged? Then I'll spend every day showing you there's nothing to fear. He kissed my forehead, tender and chaste. I'm a patient man when it matters. And you, Sophia, you matter more than anything has in years. My phone buzzed in the pocket of my borrowed pajamas, shattering the intimate moment. I pulled it out, expecting Jenna or maybe Alina confirming my shift schedule. Instead, an unknown number flashed on the screen with a text that made my blood run cold. Found you, baby. Miss me. The phone slipped from my numb fingers, clattering against the marble floor. Dante caught it before it could shatter, his expression darkening as he read the message. When did this number start? His voice was deadly calm, the kind of quiet that preceded violence. Just now. My voice shook. I've had this phone for 3 months. Only a handful of people have the number. How did he? It doesn't matter how. He set the phone aside and gripped my shoulders. Look at me, Sophia. Look at me. I forced my eyes to his, finding them blazing with protective fury. He's trying to scare you, Dante said, his voice steady despite the violence simmering beneath. That's all this is. Mind games from a coward who gets off on control. But he made a mistake. What mistake? I couldn't stop shaking. He contacted you while you're under my protection. A dangerous smile curved his lips. Which means he just signed his own death warrant. You can't. If he disappears, the police won't find anything. He pulled me against his chest, one hand cradling my head while the other rubbed soothing circles on my back. I've been doing this a long time, beautiful. Trust me to handle it. I don't want you to go to prison because of me. The thought of Dante behind bars, of being alone again, made my chest constrict. I won't. He kissed the top of my head. I have lawyers, judges, cops on my payroll. Even if Marcus's disappearance raises questions, they won't lead back to me. You have my word. I pulled back to look at him. The word of a man who's killed 17 people. 17 people who threatened what I love. His hand came up to cup my face again. Add Marcus to that list. He threatened you, which means he threatened me, and I always eliminate threats. The possessiveness should have terrified me. Instead, it made me feel safe for the first time in 2 years. What do? I asked, hating how small my voice sounded. You go about your life normally. He pulled his own phone from his pocket, already typing. You work your shifts, you stay in this apartment when you're not working, and you let me handle everything else. I can't just hide here forever. Not forever. He finished his text and pocketed the phone. Just until Marcus is no longer a problem. Which, if my people are as good as I pay them to be, will be less than a week. And then what? Then you decide. His dark eyes held mine. Stay with me or don't. But either way, you'll be free of him. Free to live without looking over your shoulder. Free to build whatever life you choose. I wanted to argue, to insist I could handle this myself. But I was so tired of being strong, of fighting alone. And Dante was offering me something I hadn't had in years. Someone to lean on. Someone to share the burden. 1 week, I said finally. I'll stay here for 1 week while you handle things. But I'm still working at Velvet. With extra security. Non-negotiable from his tone. Fine. I took a shaky breath. And after, we talk about what this is. What we are. We're already something, Sophia. He pulled me close again, and I let myself melt into his strength. Have been since you walked into my section at Sapphire. This week just makes it official. As I stood in his arms, the morning sun warming us both, I felt something shift inside me. Not healing, that would take time. But the first tentative stirring of hope that maybe, just maybe, I could stop running. That maybe I'd found somewhere, someone worth staying for. 3 days. That's how long it took for Dante's people to locate Marcus. I spent those 3 days in a strange limbo, living in a luxury penthouse that felt more like a gilded cage with every passing hour. Dante had been true to his word about letting me work at Velvet, but the security he'd assigned was suffocating. 2 men in dark suits who followed me everywhere, standing sentinel outside the restaurant during my shifts, escorting me to and from the penthouse like I was made of glass. The other servers noticed, of course. Hard not to when armed guards were a permanent fixture. But no one asked questions at Velvet. Elena had simply given me a knowing look and increased my tip out percentage, as if danger pay was a standard part of the employment package. Jenna was less subtle. So you're officially with him now, she said on my second night, cornering me by the staff room. The big bad boss himself. It's complicated, I hedged. Honey, men like Dante Russo don't do complicated. She crossed her arms, her expression caught between concern and amusement. They do obsession. They do possession. The question is, are you okay with that? Was I? I'd been asking myself the same question for 3 days. Every morning I woke in that guest room, Egyptian cotton sheets and city views. Dante already awake and working but always making time for coffee with me. Every evening he came home. Because that's what the penthouse had become, home, and we'd have dinner together, talking about everything and nothing. Our childhoods, our fears, our dreams. He told me about growing up in Brooklyn, the youngest son of a construction worker who'd gotten involved with the wrong people. About watching his father die in a shooting when he was 17. About stepping into the vacuum of power out of necessity rather than ambition. About building an empire one brutal decision at a time until he'd become the very thing people feared. I told him about a childhood in foster care, about aging out of the system at 18 with nothing but a GED and determination. About working 3 jobs to put myself through community college, about meeting Marcus when I was 23 and desperate for someone to love me, about mistaking control for care until it was almost too late. We were both broken in different ways, shaped by violence and loss into people who knew how to survive but not how to live. And somehow, in those 3 days of forced proximity, we started teaching each other the difference. But on the 4th morning, everything changed. I woke to find Dante sitting in the chair by the window, still dressed in last night's clothes, his expression carved from stone. In his hand was his phone, and from the tension in his shoulders I knew. You found him? Not a question. Yes. He looked up, and the violence in his eyes made me shiver. And it's worse than I thought, Sophia. Much worse. I sat up, pulling the sheets around me like armor. What do you mean, Marcus Chen? He said the name like a curse. 3 outstanding warrants in 2 states. Assault, stalking, 1 attempted murder. The girlfriend before you. She's in a wheelchair now. He put her there when she tried to leave. The room spun. I'd known Marcus was dangerous, but this. How is he not in prison? Money. Connections. He's been hiding behind his family's lawyers for years. Dante stood, moving toward the bed with controlled fury in every line of his body. You weren't his first victim, beautiful. You won't be his last if I don't stop him. What are you going to do? I already knew the answer, but I needed to hear him say it. What I should have done the moment you told me about him. He sat on the edge of the bed, taking my hands in his. Tonight. Permanently. And if you get caught, I won't. Absolute certainty. My people have been planning this for 3 days. We know his routine, his security, his weaknesses. By tomorrow morning, Marcus Chen will simply cease to exist. An unfortunate accident, a random mugging gone wrong. The kind of thing that happens to assholes who walk alone in the wrong neighborhood. I should have protested. Should have found some moral high ground to stand on. But looking at Dante, seeing the protective fury blazing in his eyes, all I felt was relief. I want to be there, I heard myself say. His eyes widened fractionally. Absolutely not. He terrorized me for 2 years. My grip on his hands tightened. I deserve to see him face justice, even if it's not the legal kind. Sophia, this isn't something you can unsee. His voice gentled. What I'm gonna do to him, it's not quick or clean. You don't need that in your head. Maybe I do. I met his gaze steadily. Maybe I need to see that he can't hurt me anymore. That he's really gone. We stared at each other, wills clashing in the morning light. Finally, Dante exhaled roughly. You stay in the car, he said. You watch from a distance. And if at any point you want to leave, you tell me and we go. No arguments. Agreed? Agreed. That night, I found myself in the back of a black SUV, tinted windows obscuring us from the world outside. Dante sat beside me, his hand wrapped around mine, while his driver, a massive man called Lorenzo, navigated through increasingly rough neighborhoods. Last chance to change your mind, Dante murmured as we pulled into an alley behind what looked like an abandoned warehouse. I squeezed his hand. I'm sure. 3 other vehicles were already there, men in dark clothes emerging from the shadows like wraiths. I recognized some from Velvet's security team. Others were strangers. All of them radiated the same lethal competence. Then I saw him. Marcus was bound to a chair in the center of the warehouse, duct tape over his mouth, terror in his eyes. He looked smaller than I remembered, less powerful. Just a man, flesh and bone and fear, not the monster who'd haunted my nightmares. Dante turned to me, his hand cupping my face. Last chance, beautiful. Say the word and I take you home. You never have to see him again. I looked past Dante to the man who'd broken me, who'd stolen 2 years of my life and left me afraid to trust, afraid to love, afraid to stop running. And I felt something shift inside me. Not forgiveness. I would never forgive him, but acceptance that he couldn't hurt me anymore. That this was truly ending. Do what you need to do, I said quietly. I'll be here. Dante kissed my forehead, tender despite the violence about to unfold. Then he was gone, stepping out of the SUV and walking toward Marcus with the confidence of a man who'd done this 100 times before. I watched through the tinted windows as Dante pulled the tape from Marcus's mouth. Watched as Marcus started pleading, his voice carrying faintly through the glass. Watched as Dante spoke, too quiet for me to hear but clearly explaining exactly what was about to happen and why. And I watched as recognition dawned on Marcus's face, as he realized who I'd aligned myself with, how completely he'd lost. The terror in his eyes was visceral, raw, and I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no revenge, just emptiness where fear had lived for so long. You don't have to keep watching, Lorenzo said quietly from the driver's seat. Miss Dieter, Russo wouldn't want you to see this part. I know. But I didn't look away. What happened next was brutal and efficient. Dante moved with practiced precision, making good on his promise to make Marcus hurt. Not torture for torture's sake, but retribution measured against crimes committed. For every bruise he'd left on me, for the woman in the wheelchair, for every victim who'd suffered at his hands. And then it was over. Quick, final, irreversible. Dante returned to the SUV, blood on his hands but satisfaction in his eyes. It's done. I nodded, surprised by how calm I felt. Thank you. He pulled me into his arms, heedless of the blood, and I went willingly. You're safe now. Truly safe. No one will ever hurt you like that again. We drove back to the penthouse in silence, Lorenzo taking side streets I'd never seen. Dante held me the entire way, one hand stroking my hair, his heartbeat steady beneath my ear. Back at the penthouse, he showered away the evidence while I stood at the windows, watching the city glitter below. When he emerged dressed in fresh clothes, smelling of soup and sidar, I turned to face him. What happens now? I asked. No, you decide. He stayed across the room, giving me space. The threat is gone. You're free to leave, to build whatever life you want. I'll help you relocate, provide money, references, whatever you need. No strings attached. And if I don't want to leave? Something heated flickered in his dark eyes. Then you stay with me here for as long as you want. We take this slow, build something real. I court you properly, show you what it means to be cherished rather than controlled. You just killed a man for me, I pointed out. That's not exactly taking it slow. That was protection. He moved closer, drawn like gravity. This us, that's different. I won't rush you, Sophia. Won't push for more than you're ready to give. I thought about my options. The studio apartment I'd already given up, seeing no point in paying rent when I was living here. The job at Velvet that had become more than just survival. The man standing before me, dangerous and devoted in equal measure. And I thought about how, for the first time in 2 years, I wasn't afraid. Wasn't looking over my shoulder or planning my next escape. I was just here, present, alive in a way I'd forgotten was possible. I'm staying, I said simply. Dante closed the distance between us, his hands framing my face with aching gentleness. Say it again. I smiled, recognizing the echo of our first real conversation. I'm staying, baby. With you. For however long this lasts. Forever then. He kissed me, soft and deep and full of promise. Because I'm not letting you go, Sophia. Not now, not ever. You're mine. Yours. I agreed against his lips, the word no longer frightening but freeing. We stood there in the darkness, the city lights our only witnesses, and I felt something inside me finally settle. I'd spent 3 months running, 2 years before that surviving, my whole life fighting to stay afloat. But here, in the arms of a dangerous man who looked at me like I was precious, I could finally stop. Could finally breathe. Could finally be home. What are you thinking? Dante murmured, his forehead resting against mine. That I accidentally called the wrong man baby, I said softly, and somehow ended up exactly where I needed to be. His laugh was low and warm. Best accident of my life. Mine too, I thought, as he carried me to his bedroom. Not the guest room but his own space, his sanctuary now ours. Mine too. 3 months ago, I'd walked into Sapphire Lounge invisible and afraid, desperate to stay beneath notice. Tonight, I fell asleep in Dante Russo's arms, seen and safe and finally free. Sometimes the most dangerous choice turns out to be the only one worth making. And sometimes, calling a Mafia boss baby, accidentally or otherwise, leads exactly where your broken heart needs to go. Home.